thoughts about life in 2030. There are already a lot of emerging markets like China where middle class lifestyle is rising off the charts. The collective voice, opinions, and lifestyle choices of those living in emerging markets will one day completely dominate our entire world. America and Europe will actually decline as global players. We're seeing a bit of this now. If you take a look at your movies, especially the big blockbuster movies, they are being made to actually appeal to these emerging global markets. So you have portions of the movies set in different countries, sometimes shot in some of these countries. You have characters that represent these countries, and you're going to see more of that because, you know, in the movie business, actually, tickets sales are down and continue to go down just here domestically. But if you add in the international market, it really makes a huge difference. So, uh, production companies and studios are making films with that in mind, films that will very easily be able to be marketed internationally. Uh, Countries like China and India will be transformed by the growth of their own domestic markets, becoming much less dependent on exports of goods or services to develop. And over a billion new middle class consumers will be created in emerging markets during the next 30 years. Huge growth in life expectancy in most nations. The life expectancy of every person living in a city like London is getting longer by an average of 1 year every 4 years. That's without the miracles of medical technology, pharma, and healthcare that we can expect in the next 30 or 30 to 50. Life expectancy is growing even faster in many of the poorest nations. By 2040, we will know all the secrets of non-aging animals, of which there are many types, and we'll be finding new ways to slow down aging in wealthy humans. That's interesting. Think about that for a minute. If you think we have income disparity now, what's going to happen when all the wealthy people are able to live on and those who are in poorer nations are not, are dying off? Well, there's upsides and downsides to all of these things, by the way. You know me, I always focus on the positive, but there certainly are things to be concerned about as well. Growth in global trade and corporate giants. Every year, trade between nations continues to grow rapidly. As our world continues to become more joined up as a single economic community, expect huge consolidation and mergers in manufacturing, distribution, and retail. Over 70% of all retail spending will be in less than 10 companies in many nations by 2040. Now, this of course was written before I believe it was written before our current president took office. And so we are now in sort of a sort of backlash against this in a way. But you can be assured that it won't last. I don't think it's going to. And in fact, much of this international market, he's already had to embrace, albeit sort of in a backdoor manner. So there's no way it's like trying to stop a train, or trying to stop a wave from happening. It's just you'll only get wet. But go ahead and try. So, of course, increased automation, which I mentioned earlier, factories, cars, offices, homes, Internet of Things, cloud computing, and big data will accelerate all global automations of every aspect of human existence. This is an irresistible trend that has been accelerating for over 100 years. Despite this, expect several billion more jobs to be created, mainly in service industries, as people look for ever more creative and personal ways to improve quality of life. And don't forget to add in there AI technology, which is now really on the rise. Artificial intelligence, that's what AI stands for. Computers that can think and extrapolate in a way that computers have not been able to do before. So that will allow them to take over even more jobs. But it may also allow new jobs to be created that can't be done by AI. So number 9 is tribalism feeding radical extremists and terrorism. Tribalism is the most powerful force on earth today. Every family is a tribe, every community is a tribe, every brand forms a tribe, every large company is a tribe of tribes. And as a reaction to globalization and threats to local cultures, languages, and ways of life, expect rapid growth of tribalism, localism, activism, and terrorism, unfortunately. These forces will be fed by social media and will undermine democracies and dictatorships. And we're seeing that now, of course. We have tribalism right here in this country. You've got, the tribalism of the Democrats versus Republicans, and the tribalism of progressives versus conservatives. Now, that doesn't usually lead to terrorist activity, but the more serious kinds of tribalism, such as those who have a different view of Islam and what it stands for. Those who have different views of the world, we'll continue, I'm sure, to see more of that, sadly. And number 10, most people in the world say that they have spiritual beliefs, which influence how they think, feel, and live. As communities become wealthier, you can expect sharper focus on purpose, meaning of life, making a difference, and spirituality. As part of this, expect intense focus on long-term sustainability for our world, because that will become a concern of anybody who has a sense of spirituality. You would naturally want to make sure that the world itself and everyone in it has a way to survive. So now let's look at the jobs that will probably be going away thanks to AI and new technologies. So there's a concern, of course, that computers may entrench and consolidate the power of already wealthy people and push many into poverty. But since we've already seen the cost of connectivity is dropping, that may not be the case. But what will almost certainly be the case is that computers will be taking over certain jobs. Because there's this accumulating doubling of technology. In the 40 plus years since Mr. Gordon Moore made the observation that the number of transistors packed into a chip doubles every 18 months, the transistor count of computer processors has climbed from 2,300 to more than 4 billion, and with each doubling comes a leap in the sophistication of the logic the chip can handle. which is why we have AI-capable machines now. The accumulated doubling of Moore's law and the ample doubling still to come will give us a world where supercomputer power becomes available to toys in just a few years, and where ever cheaper sensors enable inexpensive solutions to previously intractable problems. So we're going to see huge changes in that area. And we probably are going to see people losing out to tech in the workplace. In fact, some say we already are. Because even with computing technologies improving at that steady, inexorable rate, jobs may be being destroyed faster than they're created. For most of the 20th century, productivity grew hand in hand with the number of workers, but beginning in 2000, those measures began to diverge. From the turn of the century, a gap opened up between productivity and total employment, and by 2011, that delta had widened significantly, reflecting continued economic growth, but no associated increase in job creation. Now we're seeing a falling ratio of employment to population, and that's something that's concerning. This is why we have the kind of situations we have in this country right now. Today, the average income of the richest in these countries is 9 times that of the poorest. The wealth gap isn't restricted to America. In Sweden, Finland, Germany, income inequality has grown more quickly over the past 20 to 30 years. So this is the huge problem. So what jobs are at risk? Well, I don't think it will surprise you to find out that it's those tasks that are routine and easily defined. Skilled structure tasks, routine information processing tasks, those are the ones that are going to go away, or are already beginning to go away first. Things like bookkeepers and travel agents. I mean, I can't remember the last time I used a travel agent. Legal aids. All of these things are going to be able to be, and are already, handled by websites and computers. Probably not, lawyers or attorneys, but they're, paralegals and so forth. Certainly that job position may be dwindling. According to this article, one big law firm that he talked to said they're not hiring as many of those sorts of people because a machine can scan through hundreds of thousands of millions of documents and find the relevant information for a case or a trial much more quickly and accurately than a human can. And then, of course, there are automated systems. Where answers to questions, you might call a sender operator if you have a question about something, and increasingly that's going to be replaced by automated systems. It already is. I mean, have you tried recently to get a human being on the phone when you call a place like Verizon for help or something like that? I mean, it's impossible. I mean, you're offered chat, which is fine, but if you happen to be someone who kind of needs to talk to an actual person, you may have a hard time. So some estimates from the Oxford Martin School and Faculty of Philosophy in the United Kingdom. According to their estimates, 47% of total U.S. employment is in the high-risk category, meaning that associated occupations are potentially automatable over some unspecified number of years, perhaps a decade